Every minute, someone in the world dies from heart disease. According to the World Health Organization in 2023, up to 18 million people die each year from cardiovascular disease, more than double the number of cancer deaths. Every time you blink, another heart stops beating. But here's what's even more heartbreaking. Over 70% of those people had warning signs and ignored them. Hello, health champions. Today I'm going to talk about the top 9 ignored risk factors for heart attacks, and that's super important. Why? Because the signs didn't scream. They whispered. And in our noisy world, whispers get drowned out. You see, the heart is like a silent partner in your life. It never complains. It never begs. It just beats. Day in, day out. Until one day, it doesn't. Today, we're not going to talk about the same old risk factors your doctor lists on a clipboard. Smoking, obesity, cholesterol, family history. Today, we're going deeper. We're going to uncover 9 hidden danger signs, real risk factors for heart attacks that are ignored, misunderstood, or completely overlooked in most checkups. And no, this isn't conspiracy talk. It's backed by science. From Harvard, from the Mayo Clinic, from the Cleveland Heart Lab. These are factors that you can test, you can track, and you can change. Because you deserve to know the truth. And your heart deserves more than a statistic. So if you're over 60, if you've ever felt tired and chalked it up to just aging, if you've been told your cholesterol is fine, but still feel something isn't right, this video is for you. And before we begin, do this one thing. Share this video with someone you love. It may be the quiet warning their heart has been waiting for. Let me ask you something. Do you believe high cholesterol causes heart attacks? Or that being overweight automatically means you'll have heart disease? If you said yes, you're not alone, but you may have been misled. You see, most of what we believe about heart attack risk is based on something called correlation, not causation. Here's the difference. If I say, people who carry umbrellas are more likely to get wet, that's a correlation. But does the umbrella cause the rain? Of course not. And yet, nearly every day, we're bombarded with headlines like, fatty foods cause heart disease. Cholesterol kills. But when you dig into those studies, and I mean really read them, you'll often find they're based on observational questionnaires, not randomized controlled trials, RCTs, the gold standard of science. According to the National Institutes of Health, observational studies are helpful for identifying patterns, but cannot prove cause and effect. Even worse, many of these studies lump all fats together. They don't distinguish between sugar-fed bacon and pasture-raised eggs, or between deep-fried processed oils and cold-pressed olive oil. And here's where it gets scary. Because of this flawed science, millions of people have been told, eat more grains, avoid saturated fat, don't worry about sugar. Yet heart disease is still the #1 killer in the US. Does that sound like a winning strategy to you? It's time we stop chasing shadows and start looking at what's truly driving heart disease from within. In the next section, I'm going to show you the real culprits. The 9 hidden threats that don't show up on routine blood work, but do show up in autopsies, emergency rooms, and regretful conversations with doctors who never saw it coming. And if this message is opening your eyes, tell us in the comments below. What heart health advice do you now question? Your voice might just be the light someone else needs to wake up. 1. High insulin, the silent driver of disaster. You've heard of high blood sugar, but how about high insulin? It's called hyperinsulinemia, and it's possibly the #1 root cause of heart attacks, yet rarely tested. Insulin's job is to shuttle sugar out of your blood. But when your body becomes resistant to insulin, often from years of consuming carbs, sugars, and hidden starches, your pancreas pumps out more, and more, and more. This chronically high insulin causes a domino effect. It raises blood pressure, lowers HDL, good cholesterol, increases small dense LDL, bad, triggers visceral fat, fuels inflammation. It's the puppet master behind so many risk factors your doctor lists separately. Test to ask for: HOMA-IR, a powerful way to detect insulin resistance early. Ask your doctor for it. Order it independently. Your heart is worth that one extra step. 2. CAC score. The calcium. You can't feel. Most heart attacks don't come with pain beforehand, but they do come with plaque buildup, especially calcium deposits inside your arteries. This is measured by something called the CAC score, coronary artery calcification. A score of 0? You're in great shape. Over 100? Risk is rising. Over 400? You're in the red zone. It's like checking how much rust is eating away at your pipes before they burst. A 2021 study in JACC, Journal of the American College of Cardiology, found that CAC is a better predictor of heart attack than cholesterol levels or BMI. And yet, most doctors never mention it. Tip: ask for a CAC scan. It's a low-radiation CT scan. Fast, painless, life-saving. 3. ApoB/ApoA1 ratio. What cholesterol tests miss? Miss, you've probably had your LDL and HDL measured. But what about ApoB and ApoA1? ApoB is the main protein in bad lipoproteins. ApoA1 is found in good HDL particles. The ratio between the two is one of the most accurate predictors of heart disease. Why? Because it tells you how many particles are out there trying to stick to your artery walls versus cleaning them up. You want low ApoB and high ApoA1. Think of ApoA1 as your cleanup crew and ApoB as the litter bugs. A 2018 meta-analysis in The Lancet concluded, ApoB is superior to LDL in predicting cardiovascular events. Yet many doctors don't order this test unless you insist. 4. Small dense LDL, the real troublemakers. Not all LDL is created equal. There are two types: large, fluffy LDL, slow and harmless. Small, dense LDL, sharp, sneaky, and dangerous. These small particles penetrate the lining of your arteries, spark inflammation, and build plaques like termites behind a wall. Standard lipid panels don't distinguish these. You need an advanced lipid test to detect them. According to the Framingham Heart Study, high levels of small dense LDL significantly raise your risk of myocardial infarction. Ask your provider for this expanded test. It may show that your normal LDL isn't as innocent as it looks. 5. LPA, the forgotten cholesterol. LPA, pronounced LP(a), is like the villain no one talks about. It's a genetically determined cholesterol particle that mimics LDL, but with a twist. It interferes with your body's ability to dissolve clots. So even if your regular cholesterol looks fine, if LPA is high, your arteries are at risk for sudden blockage. Cleveland Clinic calls LPA a strong, independent risk factor for heart attacks and strokes. Unfortunately, there's no drug to lower it, yet. But knowing your level can help your doctor manage other risks more aggressively. Ask for an LPA test, especially if you have a family history of heart attacks at a young age. 6. Poor sleep and sleep apnea. When rest becomes risk. Sleep isn't just for feeling rested, it's for keeping your heart alive. If you're sleeping less than 6 hours a night, or you snore heavily, stop breathing during sleep, or wake up gasping. You may have sleep apnea, and it's deadly. A Harvard Health study found that untreated sleep apnea doubles your risk of heart attack and stroke. Why? Because every oxygen drop during apnea events strains your heart like revving an engine without oil. Don't ignore poor sleep. Get a sleep study. Try a CPAP if needed. Your heart will thank you. 7. Chronic stress. The invisible accelerator. You may not smoke. You may eat well. But if you're stressed all day, every day, your heart pays the price. Cortisol, the stress hormone, raises blood pressure, spikes blood sugar, and worsens insulin resistance. Over time, this leads to inflammation and artery damage. According to the American Heart Association, chronic stress is as harmful as smoking in terms of cardiovascular risk. Whether it's walking, prayer, music, or therapy, find what helps you decompress. Because managing stress isn't just about mental health anymore. It's about survival. 8. Visceral fat. What you carry under your skin, subcutaneous fat, is less concerning. But the fat around your liver, heart, and intestines, called visceral fat, is toxic. It releases inflammatory signals, increases insulin resistance, and contributes to arterial plaque. Even thin-looking people can have it. Ever heard of TOFI? Thin outside, fat inside. Solution: cut back on added sugars and starches. Fast intermittently. Visceral fat melts with consistent low-carb, nutrient-dense habits. 9. Chronic inflammation. The root of ruptures. Your arteries don't get blocked overnight. They get inflamed, irritated, and injured over decades. And that inflammation doesn't usually come from saturated fats like butter or coconut oil. It comes from refined carbs, seed oils, like canola, corn, soy, and deep-fried foods. When you fry oil at high heat, it oxidizes, creating toxic compounds that attack your artery walls. According to Mayo Clinic, chronic inflammation is a key contributor to atherosclerosis. The fix? Cook with stable fats, coconut oil, tallow, olive oil. Avoid processed snacks and restaurant frying oils. Embrace anti-inflammatory foods, turmeric, leafy greens, omega-3s. These 9 factors may not appear on your annual physical, but together, they form the iceberg beneath the surface, the hidden layers of risk that traditional medicine doesn't always see or treat. So here's your mission. Don't wait to be told. Ask, demand, test, change. Because when it comes to heart disease, what you don't know really can hurt you. Let me ask you something. If the government has been telling us to eat heart healthy for 50 years, why is heart disease still the #1 killer? Because what's marketed as healthy often isn't. The heart-healthy diet recommended by many mainstream organizations still includes whole grains, high in carbs and insulin spiking, legumes and beans, also high in lectins and starch, Vegetable oils like canola, soybean, corn oil, highly inflammatory, and even added sugars in moderation. Seriously? In 2020, the American Heart Association still said, up to 10% of your daily calories can come from added sugars. That's like telling a diabetic they can have dessert at every meal, as long as it's small. Here's the truth. Your heart doesn't need more sugar. It doesn't need polyunsaturated oils from a factory. It needs real food. Natural fats like olive oil, coconut oil, butter. Vegetables that grow above the ground. Protein from wild-caught fish and pasture-raised meat. And zero tolerance for highly processed junk. The real heart killers? Refined carbs plus industrial seed oils. A perfect storm of inflammation and insulin spikes. Want to protect your heart? Stop counting calories. Start watching what's causing your insulin to rise and your arteries to inflame. The food industry may not like that message, but your heart will. Let me tell you a story. His name is Richard, 67 years old, retired truck driver. No heart pain, no shortness of breath. Just fatigue and a stubborn gut feeling that something wasn't right. He asked his doctor for a cholesterol test. Your LDL is normal, the doctor said. Nothing to worry about. But Richard kept researching. He stumbled on a video, just like this one. He learned about CAC scoring, insulin resistance, and LPA. So he took the test. His CAC score, 487. His HOMAIR, borderline insulin resistance. His LPA, high. His arteries were quietly hardening. A ticking time bomb, hidden beneath normal blood work. That was the wake-up call. He swapped breakfast cereal for eggs, replaced vegetable oil with butter and olive oil, cut back on bread, sugar, soda. Started walking every morning and began using a CPAP machine after a sleep test confirmed apnea. In just 4 months, he lost 18 pounds of visceral fat, improved sleep, and most importantly, his energy came back. His doctor was stunned. "You've reversed the trend," he said. And here's the truth. Richard didn't find a cure. He found awareness. And with that awareness, he reclaimed his power. So ask yourself, could this be your story too? If it sounds familiar, maybe it's not too late. Maybe it's just the beginning. So, now that you know the 9 hidden risk factors, what do you do next? Here are 7 powerful actions you can take, starting today, to lower your risk and take control of your heart's future. 1. Request the right tests. 2. Cut the sugar, not the fat. 3. Switch your oils. 4. Move daily. Even 15 minutes helps. 5. Sleep like your life depends on it. 6. Manage stress. Intentionally. 7. Share this with someone you love. Remember, you're not powerless. You're not broken. And it's not too late. Every small choice is a vote for life. And your heart? It's listening. If you've made it this far, I want you to take a breath. Place your hand over your chest. Feel it? That's your heart, still fighting for you. It doesn't care how old you are. It doesn't care how many mistakes you've made. It just wants one thing: a chance to be heard, a chance to heal, a chance to keep beating. But it can't do that if you ignore the signs, if you dismiss the symptoms, if you only look at your total cholesterol and call it a day. Now you know more. You know the tests to ask for. You know the foods that heal. You know the risk factors that hide in plain sight. The real question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Because the biggest danger is not high cholesterol. It's false reassurance. It's silence. Your heart has been whispering. Maybe today, you finally heard it. I want to hear from you. What surprised you most today? What are you going to ask your doctor on your next visit? Leave a comment. Share this video with someone who needs it. And most of all, don't let your story end in silence. Let it begin again with one heartbeat of courage.